Yeah, I'm wearing my girlfriend's massive pink hoodie, but who cares, because today's video is a banger. I'm bringing you a 1.5 hour long Q&A session that I did with subscribers, focused solely on appointment booking, sales and service delivery and offer building for social media marketing agencies. For those of you who don't know who I am, who are new to the channel, I promise I don't wear this sort of attire all the time on the channel, but my name's Charlie Morgan and I have built and grown 2 companies. One of them's called NorthFlow Consulting, which was an agency, got it to 7 figures and sold it, and now I run Imperium Agency, a coaching business that helps people with client acquisition in the online space. It's an awesome business, I love it to bits, and this YouTube channel is designed to help people like you solve the problem of client acquisition, and that's what this video is going to do. I think I answered basically every question under the sun about client acquisition and sales and such, and I'm really excited to be rolling this video out to the channel. So without further ado, I'm going to cut the clip in now. Let's crack on with it. If you like the video, please like it because it helps me help other people, and comment any other video ideas you've got. And you see that big juicy little red button with the white writing in it that says subscribe. You can click it if you want to, but if you don't want to, it's fine. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Okay, let's get started. So Pavel says, any experience with service delivery with kitchen, bathroom, or home remodeling services, having a common objection with lead quality or getting lots of price shoppers? I have no experience with that, my friend, so I wouldn't be able to assist you there. What I can tell you is it's a wise idea to not believe what your clients are saying, because your clients will always tell you the quality of leads are bad if they can't sell. Most people who aren't capable of closing don't admit or take responsibility for that when there's something like lead quality that can act as a scapegoat. So I would recommend, instead of trying to address it from a lead quality perspective, I would try and address it from a sales perspective. Ask them like, all right, well, what's your sales process? And then if they haven't got one, they're like, I don't know, I just talk to them. Then you know that it's not about lead quality. So my advice there would be, don't believe the client. Just trying to find what the problem actually is before you come up with a solution. Otherwise, you'll be solving the wrong problem. You've mentioned in a YouTube video that having a niche you care about is important. I picked this niche because it's high ticket and I knew some people in it so I could get started. I'm making 15K a month, but I dread going on sales calls. I'm not excited. Tried to take some time off, but still feeling this way. Any advice? It depends like what your goal is. Like if you got like a 5-10 year plan as to like what you want your life to look like and what lifestyle you want to have and who you want to be surrounded by and who you want to live with. Like sometimes you don't have to love your work and your business. You have to love the future that your work and your business creates, and that's enough to pull you through. However, I can understand that if you're not actually particularly excited about it, then it's never going to work. My suggestion would be try and get it to 50 grand a month. And if you still hate it, then switch. But if you can get it to 50K a month and you're still like, I actually hate this business, then it's fair enough. You've acquired the skills to make 500K a year. You can go and do that in another niche. But I wouldn't hop. If I was going to like pick a niche, I would stick to it to at least 50K a month. But like if you're like constantly feeling tired, when you say take time off, dude, just like go and take like a whole week off. But like don't just take time off work. Take time off of everything. Like literally everything you do, just do a complete lifestyle reset. But yeah, man, that would be my advice. Joshua says, hi, Charlie, hope you're well. Thank you. Can you talk about becoming he who can? How do you cause an identity shift to go from who you are to who you want to be? So like identity is a aggregation of every belief that you have about yourself and your relationship with the world and different parts of it. So for example, an identity-based belief would be sales is hard, or I'm bad at sales, or I can't do this, or whatever. The best way to change your identity is to change your beliefs. And the best way to change your beliefs is by affirmations, at least I found. The key to affirmations is visualization and emotion. So when you're affirmating something, which could be, I am like, for me, for example, one of my old affirmations was, I am the best appointment setter in the world. And like, you can't just say that, you have to see it and then feel it, if that makes sense. So when it comes to changing identity, like you have to isolate, like the biggest bottlenecks in your business are probably going to be the biggest bottlenecks in your identity. So if you're having a sales issue or an appointment booking issue or a service delivery issue, it's not a business problem. The reason those problems exist is because you aren't the person that can solve them. And if you're not the person that can solve them, there's a strong chance it's because you have certain beliefs about those disciplines or facets in your business that stop you from solving them. So for example, I hear a lot of people complain that appointment booking is hard, or that appointment booking is saturated, or that prospects don't want to buy on the first call. Like those, your only limit is your belief to a degree, right? You're limited by time, energy, gravity, and other rules of the universe like entropy. But for the most part, it's all about how you see it and what you believe in. So I would recommend like, look at the biggest problem you've got, Joshua. And then like, you probably like, if you look at your business and you're struggling with appointment booking, you will see yourself as struggling with appointment booking. But if you can spend 15 minutes to half an hour a day visualizing in firm, thorough detail with color and every sense going that you could possibly imagine, and then imagine yourself in a situation where your calendar is completely full, and then imagine how that feels. And then what will happen is through your day, you'll start to act in accordance to that feeling, not the one you've got right now. And over time, it will manifest. It's not about the law of attraction, it's about the law of action. But the belief firms the action, which firms the result, if that makes sense. So this is I'm gonna not try and pronounce that name because I'll just fuck it up, so I do apologize. But we'll call him DM. You said not to hop on outreach methods, but LinkedIn. I'm just going to read this question. That is, you said not to hop on outreach methods, but LinkedIn restricts connection requests. That is why I chose to follow this plan. How is your view here? Can I use another LinkedIn unused profile? That makes no sense, mate. Just retype the question, please. With LinkedIn outreach, should I send permission-based messages? Question of anticipated resonance, cold message in the first connection request message, or once again, not sure I understand this question. There's no question mark in that statement. It's just, you've kind of just stated like 3 different things. So I can't really answer a question. If you just try and cut it down and make it really simple with a question, and I'll actually answer it. I don't want to sound like a dick, but we do this a lot with paid coaching calls where it's like, actually ask a question, if that makes sense. Instead of just saying like, how do I improve this? Just, you should be able to locate the problem and then I can solve it for you. But if we haven't got a problem, I don't know what to solve. It's an important lesson in critical thinking. Philip says, I still have a full-time job. I can only dedicate 3 to 4 hours a day to my agency, and lead sourcing takes most of my time. I need 1 hour to generate 20 leads. I was wondering if I should buy a lead list and lower quality leads, but focus on sending more cold emails, or keep doing this myself and eventually outsource this to a VA so I have more time for outreach and sales. How do you structure your time in this situation? Well, first of all, you've probably got more than 3 to 4 hours per day to do it. That's like, this is a personal standard that you've set. So realistically, if you're sleeping for 8 hours and you're working for 8 hours at your full-time job, plus another hour for a commute, for example, then you've actually got 7 hours to do this. Now, I'm not saying it would be healthy for you to do that all the time, but let's not impose time-restricted limits on activity when you're starting. You kind of have to just be willing to work all the way around the clock and burn out and then keep going. However, that's not very healthy. So in this situation, if you wanted to, is go define your lead sourcing process and then make it into a standard operating procedure. And if you're wondering how you do that, you literally just screen record your activity for an hour and then speak as you're doing it. And then go and find a virtual assistant and let them run that for you for $3 an hour. The reason you want to do that is because when you go to a lead sourcer or buy a lead list, loads of other agencies use that sourcer and that list. So people think that the quality of leads is the problem, but it's actually the fact that most other agencies have already reached out to those leads. So lead quality, one of the things people don't see or don't consider when it comes to lead quality and buying lead lists is the fact that that lead list has been attacked by hundreds of agencies, potentially way more than that. It's like D7 Lead Finder, for example. Like every business on there is probably just sick of marketing agencies. So get your process, give it to a VA and do it like that instead. Because you can buy you just got to think about virtual assistants essentially allow you to buy your time for $3 an hour. And that's pretty fucking awesome. So yeah, I'd leverage that. Brian, I'm 17, doing A-levels, and I am starting an SMMA. I've been trying to manage my time by planning my days and whatnot, but it's extremely hard. What tips do you have for managing my time better? Yeah, so I'd recommend you use this little, let's see if I can find this. Hang on. Bear with me. All right, you might have seen this in a YouTube video before, I'm not sure. I'm going to put it in the chat. So this is a daily planner. I'll just show you my screen, Brian. I built this myself to manage my time because I was getting sick of like not being productive. So, all right, so there's a few things. So first of all, procrastination is much more likely when ambiguity is present. So it's really important that you sit down at the end of each day and you plan out exactly what your day is going to look like tomorrow. Because then what happens is as you sleep, your unconscious will start to run systems or expectations of what it's going to do tomorrow, which means that the work is a lot easier to fall into place, if that makes sense. It's pretty simple. You log out all your time. You can change this if you want. Then your productivity inventory, this is just a fancy word for a to-do list that sounds sexier. You put 3 main things you want to do, and at the end of each day, you log how you could have improved. And then what I also started doing a while ago is tallying up my distractions. And then what I would do is I'd take the tally of distractions, multiply it by 2, and remove it from focus and output. So focus you log as a percentage, and output you log as a percentage. So if your focus is perfect and your output is perfect, you log 100%, and the rating is focus time plus output divided by 2. And then you can rate each day. And so I've actually got, hang on. So I've got like a bunch of these planners, and I can basically go back and look at my rating for every single day. And over time, I can log and track my energy and my output and my focus. And it just allows me to attribute cause to effect for productivity tools. But that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to organize your calendar so that it looks something like this. So if I just go to like, let's just go here, for example. So I structure my Google Calendar to repeat the same every single week. And it logs in like key things that I like. Yellow is meetings I have to do every single time, coaching call, sales training with people, etc., etc. So you can just screenshot that. You log your sleep in, and then this just starts to become like a way more habitual and easier to manage, if that makes sense. It's how I love to manage my time with calendar like that. So yeah, there's that. Just another confirmation with people with cameras on. Can you thumbs up that you can hear me okay? All right, cool. Okay. I don't know if I should do service delivery first or if I should focus on outreach first. So basically, should I focus on service delivery or outreach first? The answer is both. Outreach in the day, service delivery at night. Make hay whilst the sun shines, sign clients whilst the sun shines, deliver for them when it doesn't. How do you go about building an appointment setting team, the kind that books leads for clients? I'd find someone that does it successfully and then ask them how they've done it, because I haven't done this before, so I'm not sure. I know you can get ISAs for like the real estate niche and stuff like that. There's actually a company that specializes in like admin roles and stuff for appointment setting. But honestly, I can't really give you advice on that because I've never had to do it before. I mean, the best way to build a team is to build a system that you know works yourself first, and then just create an SOP around it and find someone that can run it. Simple as that. What's your opinion on mass outreach versus personalization? Well, it should never be mass outreach versus personalization. It should always be mass outreach plus personalization. You shouldn't do one or the other. You should do both. It's quality. One of the best strategies. What lead sourcing methods for Ecom can you recommend? Searching on Google. Ecom lead sourcing absolutely sucks, but there's no like, I mean, you can use store leads. Store leads, actually, I think they recently added like another 40,000 leads or something. But store leads, everyone uses store leads, so you kind of have to find your own. But it's literally just a question of like going on Google. Something else cool that you can do is algorithmic Instagram lead sourcing. I'll see if I can find the resource we have on this. There's a lead sourcing method on Instagram. Actually, no, I won't be able to find it in my drive. Basically, there's a method on Instagram you can use where if you go on a brand, like most people think if you go on Instagram and you click on a profile, you click that little blue drop down and it shows you similar businesses, right? Or similar profiles. There's actually a better way to do it in Instagram. There's a feature in Instagram, I'll let you guys find it yourselves, where you can look at suggested accounts to follow. So if you create a brand new Instagram account, follow your ideal 10 clients, and then go to the suggested brands to follow, it will pull the affinity of those 10 accounts, and then it will show you other accounts to have affinity to them, if that makes sense. So that's another good one. What if my prospect says, can you meet me in person? I think it's better when I cannot because I'm in another country or state. How do you handle this objection? Just say, I really appreciate you asking. I would also love to do that, but right now, geography doesn't allow me to, but I'd still love to talk to you. It's not really an objection. You just agree with them and say that it would be better. So their ego is satisfied. And then you basically just say to them, like, however, we can't let geography be a boundary of your business success. So let's just hop on Zoom. What's your age? I'm 24. What's your opinion on free trials and a setup fee, but not retainer at the start? I've been doing this, but not many of my clients are converting to a retainer package. Yeah, so like if you do a trial and then retainer later, the only way that works is if you're actually good at service delivery. The whole idea behind the Trojan horse model is like you get someone on board, after 3 months, they start paying a retainer. But if after 3 months you haven't completely blown them away, they won't pay the retainer. So if you're not good at what you do, you can't really do it. What are the best skills or best services to offer? Anything that the best service to offer is the one that most efficiently, easily, and repeatably and predictably solves the person's problem. You should never try and solve that problem from like a front perspective. You should always just apply inversion to it. So what's the best service? Well, what's a service? Like a service is something that solves a problem for someone. What's the problem? It's something that people struggle with. All right, well then what's the best service? Something that removes a struggle. And then you just reverse engineer it using that logic. Instead of looking at it like, oh, should I pick Facebook ads or Twitter ads? It's like, are either of these actually the best option? Is there a cold calling hygiene protocol, for example, using a separate phone number to avoid spam list? No, you just call every number. When it comes to cold calling, you just should not worry about the quality of the lead. You should just make up for it with volume. And also never research before making a cold call. It's just so stupid. It's just like a pain avoidance thing. Brian says every time one of my cold calls ends in a negative state, I just sit there and think about it for the next 5 to 10 minutes before I make another cold call. I don't know why I'm doing this and how do I solve this? You just make the next call, man. You shouldn't be looking for solutions for stuff like that. The solution is just to make the next call. You should just be, oh, negative call, next. Like have the next number ready to dial and just dial it. Like don't give your brain or that childish part of you chance to even process it. Like when my dad told me a funny story once because he used to sell wine making cold calls. And he used to strap because obviously it was like back in the 80s, 70s, whatever. He used to strap the phone to his hand. So he couldn't put the phone down. Like it was always attached to his hand. But everyone, like when it comes to these mindset things, like, oh, I don't know why I can't do the work. Like, well, how do I solve this? Or like if I do a cold call and then I feel like I shouldn't do another one, I don't do it. How do I solve it? You just do it. There's no like shiny little mindset object. There's no, reading stoicism or going and listening to motivational talks does not solve the problem. You just have to do it. Like be aware of the thought and be like, all right, there's that negative feeling I get. Next. Otherwise you just have to do it, man. Now I know that's just as like it's such an easy answer to give and a hard one to implement, but there's no real magic silver bullet when it comes to stuff like that. What would you do if you offer a trial run and the trial expires, but the client wants to continue with the trial for a while before moving to retainer? Should I be firm and tell them they must move to a retainer, or should I extend the trial run? Yeah, tell them like they must move to a retainer. You've got to realize you're working with business owners and they're not stupid. They will try and take advantage of you. And it's not because of any egotistical reasons, right? They're just doing it because it's within their nature to get the best deal for themselves. So just be like, I really appreciate you want to keep working with me, but no, you've got to be a retainer. It's what we agreed. Never be afraid to be firm with a client. Otherwise, they just push you around. What outreach methods would you do for TikTok and UGC offer? What do you think about cold calling for Ecom? I actually would like anyone that do cold calling for Ecom would probably do really well. I know that Store Leads actually added phone numbers recently to a lot of businesses, and nobody does cold calling for Ecom, so it's probably a pretty good method. But in terms of outreach methods I do specifically for that offer, it would be the same as all of them. Everyone, basically. Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, if you've got, if you've got an account, just do it all. Andrea says, Charlie, thank you so much for all that you've been doing. Thank you for the words. If I have no previous experience with ads, how can I set expectations for ad spend getting X leads? So what you can do is you can go to your competitors and find out the people who are obviously doing ads for their clients, and ask them like, what's the average cost per lead? And then just add 25% because they're probably going to be really optimistic. And then you can just look at their ads, and you can look at their clients and find their clients, and just go and find the clients' ads in the funnels, and then just copy it. And you've got a process that will be getting a certain dollar amount of leads. Just ask, like, pretend to be like a gym owner. Be like, hey, like, what's your average cost per lead? They'll be like, oh, it's like $3, but that's probably a lie, more like 10, but that's probably the best way to do it. Alternatively, just sign some clients for a very low retainer, or go to clients and say your work pay per appointment and just figure it out on your own. What's your thoughts on multi-channel outreach? If email is working for me, should I then explore other channels like LinkedIn, paid ads, etc., or should I focus on one channel that's working well to scale? Find a channel that is reliable and that delivers your message, but then bolt on other channels to it. So for example, if you're doing looms and you're not calling people that view looms, you're losing money. Or if you're doing looms and you're not sending friend requests and LinkedIn connection requests to everyone that views your looms, you're losing money. So like, you want to appear everywhere at once. Omni-channel attraction is very good. Hi Charlie, I saw your sales opener video. What would you say after selling that 30-second thing to the prospect? That's the secret. That's for paying clients, I'm afraid. Something along the lines of like listing out the potential problems they're facing and what impact that usually has on their business, and then asking if that resonates with them. It's all about the problem. It's like, all right, well, listen, I've got 30 seconds. What I'm going to do is explain a situation to you, and all I want you to do is you tell me if it resonates with you. And then you just go in to explain like what problems they're probably facing, and predicting like what bottlenecks that creates in their business and how they feel about it. And just, does that resonate with you at all? And if it does, then you can say, well, would you mind if I explain how I solve that problem for you? Yeah, please go ahead. And you just explain how you solve the problem. The simpler and more direct your cold calling verbiage is, the better. People really overcomplicate cold calling. The less you can say, the more impact you have. Sam says, you mentioned the niche doesn't matter, but you also say e-commerce is hard. How would you tackle e-commerce outreach if you were going to start in 2023 without out guaranteeing the next person? It's a good question. So it's like Sun Tzu's The Art of War, right? You fight the enemy on territory they're not familiar with. So I'd start reaching out to countries that people don't touch, that might hopefully speak English. Like, we've got clients in Denmark, in the Netherlands, in Germany, in Poland. And as soon as they start reaching out to European businesses that have never seen a loom in their life, their loom view rate and appointment booking rate flies way up. It's like New Zealand, Australia, maybe South Africa. I don't know, fucking Argentina, right? I don't know specifically exactly what countries would be best. But a lot of people just go US and that's it. So, I mean, that's one thing I would do. The alternative to that is basically it's called contrarian attractions, what I've called it, where just go and look at everyone's email copy in the ecom niche and just write the exact opposite of it. Like, try and seem as far away from the trend as you possibly can, but not in an ironic way where you're like, I'm sure you get these emails all the time, because everyone says that. The only real way to like craft an advantage with e-commerce outreach is to have a very strong level of creativity and originality and an extremely strong offer. But, also don't tell them, show them. So show them how it works. So you've got case studies. This is the other thing as well, like, e-commerce brands don't trust case studies anymore. If you've got case studies, you better be able to show the name of the business. It's kind of like with Imperium. The way we do it is, it's like if we have a case study, I do an interview with the person, and then I link their LinkedIn profile, and then I link their agency website so everyone can see it's real, because there's so much bullshit these days. But if you haven't got those case studies, then you obviously can't use them. But transparency is probably a pretty good option as well. Could I improve the way I present my offer? I usually say we can increase your monthly revenue by 3 to 6 days in 90 days with a money back guarantee. Have a really bad reply rate, and every single reply is no thanks, unsub, remove me from your email list. First of all, I wouldn't say 100% money back guarantee, because that implies that they have to put some sort of risk on the table and trust you with their money. So I prefer words like pay on results, pay per performance, only eat what we kill. It has a better ring to it. And like, it's the same thing, like nobody's, this is the thing about offers like this, right? Unless you can prove to them that you can do it, nobody's going to believe that you can increase their monthly revenue by 6 times in 3 months. Like if someone came to me and was like, Charlie, I can take Imperium's revenue and 6x it in 90 days. I'd be like, what, you're going to take us from like 250k a month to like 1.25 million in the next 3 months? I don't think so, mate. And so you immediately lose trust with them, because you're promising things that they wouldn't even comprehend are possible. So there's this line with guarantees where you have to balance under promising and over promising so much that they don't even possibly believe you. And it also depends. It's not like if you're not getting replies, it's not always about the offer. Like the offer is usually the culprit, but it could be like, are you reaching out to the same leads as everybody else? It's just your copy looks similar to everybody else? Are you personalizing emails? Like what softwares are you using? Like there's so many variables that come into a bad reply rate that the offer is usually the main culprit. But like with that, it's just, once again, it's the same as everybody else's. Like, you know, everyone just basically says, I can do this, insert percentage or multiplier here, insert 90 days guarantee. Everyone now does it, right? So it starts to lose its effectiveness. The best offers are ones that resonate with people. So like if you look at any political campaign, look at Make America Great Again, right? Or in the UK with Brexit, it was Take Back Control. Those are offers, right? Like if you vote for me, I'll make America great again. That's my offer to you. If you vote for Brexit, you can take back control. That's what you get by voting for me. It's like you kind of want to start to see offers and offer writing in accordance with resonance as opposed to promise. You still want promise because it still works. But there's an element of this where if you understand your niche well enough, everything gets easier. So like one offer, I could come up with an offer right now for agency owners being like, hey, Charlie, you probably haven't got any sales calls today. We can fix that. And it's just such as if you see what I'm saying, like it's a resonance-based thing as opposed to a promise-based thing. Because everyone's just banner blind to the same thing. How do you automate lead gen for local clients? That's way too vague of a question. But, I mean, there's so much that goes into that it would take me ages to answer. But it's very simple. Like do it yourself and then give it to someone. Like figure out how to deliver a good lead generation system for local clients, and then make a document showing everything that you do and how you do it, and then go and find someone that can run it for you. The best automation strategy is hiring. But the best way to automate a system is to remove as much of it as possible. The more things you remove from a system, the simpler it becomes. And the simpler it becomes, the more systemizable and scalable it is. It's kind of like why with Imperium, we only have one product, one funnel, one method of traffic, one sales script, one contract, one onboarding process, one payment plan. Like everything is just one. So the best strategy for automation is elimination, and then delegation, and then automation. So eliminate what you can, delegate what you can't, and then the rest of it can usually be handled by software. Do you have any tips for Instagram outreach for Ecom? Yeah, do video or voice notes and ask for their permission to pitch them. But then like most brands won't actually see your message because you go to the message requests. So you get really bloody good at giving them a very good reason to open it in that first 5 words before the ellipsis happens. What's your follow-up sequence? What, for cold email, I'm assuming? It's literally just 3 emails that say, what do you think? The best follow-up process I've ever built is the most simple one. It's just like, what do you think of the video? Did you like the case studies I sent? Hope you're doing well. Any thoughts? Like, I see people's follow-up messages and I receive them from cold emailers, and it's like, I'm not going to read that. I don't even read your first email, you know? So yeah, the best follow-up sequences I've found specifically for cold email are usually less than 5 words. A lot of people keep saying, to find the decision maker of the business. I'm in the restaurant niche, and the only way I can find the decision maker is by calling the gatekeeper and asking them, but they usually don't disclose the decision maker's number because of privacy's sake. What do I do? That's a good question. When I was cold calling and I used to call businesses and the owner wasn't there, I would basically act as if, like, this is quite unethical, and I'm not suggesting you do this, but it's a viable strategy that I used to use to get decision makers' numbers that I forgot I used until now. So you call them up, and I don't know if you know the name of the business owner or not. You can be like, you can just say, hey, it's Charlie, is Mark around? Doesn't matter if the guy's name's Mark or not. I should be like, who's Mark? Who's Mark? So, oh, he owns the company, right? I got these details passed across my desk. No, it's not Mark. Oh, who is it? Who is it? John. Oh, John. Oh, sorry. I'm calling one number down by accident. Sorry. Of course it's John. I'm trying to get hold of him. Is he there? No, he's not there. Okay. I've got his cell down as 315-215-0913. Can you confirm that for me? And then they'll be like, oh, that's not his number. You'll be like, oh, is it? And then you list another one below. Oh no, it's not his number. Oh, okay. Well, can you just help me here? Like, what is it? I need to contact him. And then usually, because if you sound like you should already have his number, then the person should give it to you. However, like if you're cold calling restaurants, like the decision maker should usually be around. So yeah. Or at least you can use a concession and be like, I completely understand you can't give me their phone number. What about their email address? Could you at least do that for me? And you get something at least. Hey Charlie, my current offer of prospects is pay per show in the eye care industry, meaning the client only pays when the lead shows up. Would you say that is more appealing than a guarantee such as money back? Yes, I would. How do you find ecom leads? I answered that one earlier. Taib, how's it going, man? Hi Charlie, simple message from Paris. Thank you for your amazing channel. Oh, that's not even a question. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I haven't been doing outreach as I've been prepping my agency for 2 months. Right, this is the biggest mistake people make at the beginning is preparation. The best preparation for business is outreach. Like, let that sink in for a second. Like, you don't have a business or an agency until you have cash in the bank. Everyone says, like, oh, I'm an agency owner. How much money are you making? Nothing. All right, well, you're not an agency owner then. And even then, like, I'm an agency owner. How much money are you making? 3K a month. You're not an agency owner. You're a freelancer. There's nothing wrong with that, but one of the main and most fundamental issues that people make go wrong with at the start is preparing. Like when Bo and I started Imperium, the way we prepared was by doing like 50 emails a day. We didn't even have a name for the company or a product when we signed our first client. But like everyone spends the first 2 months like building a website and then getting business cards and buying a t-shirt with their logo on it. Like if I find someone agonizing over like whether they should use a light or red, dark shade of red on their logo, I know they're fucked. Because like if your attention is going anywhere but client acquisition in the first month of your business, then you're in serious trouble because you're procrastinating what you need to do to make money. A business is a vehicle to make money, not to make a website or a brand. The brand comes after. But anyways, not to slate you too much before I've even read the rest of your question. My plan is to learn how to do ads, get to 15K a month, and hire a media buyer. What would you say? Would you say I should learn how to do lead gen first, or just focus on outreach and signing some clients and hiring someone from the get-go? I would do it yourself, man. I'd bootstrap it personally. Like when you're starting as well, you don't feel like you have to go for significantly large retainers, because if you're not confident in your price, there's no way in hell you'll sell it to a degree, right? So like if you know, maybe what a lot of people when they start out is like, I'm terrified of sales calls. I'm really struggling to get clients. It's like, how much are you charging? 2K a month. Do you believe you're worth 2K a month? No. Well, then how the hell are you going to convince somebody else you're worth that? If that makes sense. So the strategy I used when I was starting was just to sign smaller clients and just do like, grab what I could, do pay per lead, pay per appointment, small retainer, setup fee, whatever that looks like. But to answer your question, Zoom user, I would learn how to do it yourself. I would learn how to do it yourself. It will be harder and it will suck more, but the more pain you expose yourself to in the early days of a business, the more growth you experience. And I've yet to find a circumstance where that's not true. Like, the harder it is, the more you make, basically. Also, guys, like, the harder it is for you to, like, the more, how do I phrase this? The harder it is for you to build your product, the easier client acquisition will be. So the key to good and easy client acquisition is to have an insane product. So all the energy you put into figuring out how to attract clients, just put all of that into figuring out how to deliver an absolutely insane product, and then magical things will happen. Andrea says, Charlie, in your opinion, starting a new niche, what's the best strategy to sell SaaS? I'm feeling good with cold call one-to-one, so I think the first 10 clients I will cold call, then use the review with the SaaS product to sell via webinar. It could be a good strategy. Andrea, I'd love to answer that question, but I've never sold a SaaS product in my life, so I can't really answer that question with any level of knowledge or integrity, basically. So I do apologize for that. What I can tell you is sales calls do work quite well. I would like, if I was selling SaaS, I would only ever sell it through a sales call if there was a setup fee. Because the problem with SaaS is that if you start doing sales calls and you want to scale it, then you have to hire a sales team. And a sales team is only ever going to want to work on commission. So then what you do is you take the setup fee and give it to the sales rep. So you have to think long term with these things. Do I build a sales team or do I do it through webinar? Well, if you're doing it through webinar, people probably aren't going to pay you a big setup fee without getting questions answered and objections handled first. But if you're not charging a big setup fee, then you can get away with it. But if you want to charge a setup fee, I would do a sales call and then you can hire people under that. Francis says, hey, Charlie, I'm doing D2C ecom brands. I can't decide what channels to start outreach on. What channel do you recommend I start on? If I would like to have an unfair advantage, I have lead lists, but I don't want to waste time with store leads. What would you recommend to start with and why? Start with all of them. Don't pick one, pick them all. Like, outreach is like, the more outreach, like, imagine you're a fisherman and you're in the ocean. Like, the more outreach, the more volume you do and the more platforms you leverage, the bigger net you cast. So don't just pick, don't be like, what's the best one? Where should I put all my attention? Like, there's an element of this where, like, it helps to focus on one at a time and make them really good. But at the same time, if you're starting and you're clueless to do with outreach and you don't really understand your niche, just chuck everything at a wall and see what sticks. If a client joined our program and the paid program, which I'm not selling to anyone, this is not a conversation of sales, but if you were a client, I'd give you advice of focusing on different strategies in the program and building individual ones first, because we've got processes to do that. But if you're a beginner and you're just a little bit blind and you're not sure, just do everything you possibly can and make as many mistakes as you can. But the most important thing is track your data to an absolute T. So every single system you use, log exactly how many messages you sent, exactly how many people viewed your Loom or whatever it is, how many people replied every day, how many appointments you booked, how many appointments showed, how many appointments you closed. Like, the most, if you want to understand outreach, you need to understand two things: psychology and statistics. If you understand psychology, then you can put together stimulus or stimuli, like copy, that encourages people to take an action. But if you understand psychology and create the best copy, but you don't have the knowledge of statistics and metrics to manage that and continuously improve it and make sure that you're not making mistakes, then you fall flat on your face. So my best advice to anyone who wants to get good at client acquisition from a cold perspective is, don't focus on like which platform should you choose. Focus on which psychologist you should study and which statistics books you should be reading. Those are the things that move the needle way more than anything else. Client acquisition is not a discipline that exists. It's a discipline that is made up of sub-disciplines like psychology, statistics, game theory, economics. If you study disciplines and understand them, you can apply them, and then everything gets really easy. But to answer your question in short, I would just do them all, basically. Charlie, I'm struggling with service delivery for the hotels niche. I love the niche. I have good contacts and I've done a lot of research. The issue is that there is so much potential for service delivery. I don't know which ads to focus on in the beginning. This holds a lot of implication for the offer I send in outreach, given sales calls and need to solve it. I can do Facebook lead gen ads, automated straight to the client sales team. I can do Google hotel ads, offering the hotel be top of the list, not taking away from the importance of that. Or I can do Google display campaigns, collecting leads from sites. Do you have much experience with Google ads? How do they fare up against Facebook ads? What would you do in my situation, starting off an agency with no clue which service delivery to double down? Right, Joshua, can you just explain, sorry, I know you're in front of like 40 people here, but can you actually explain what the problem is? Because you said you're having a problem with service delivery, but it could be are the leads not showing up? Is your CPM too high? Like what actually is the problem? You're welcome to unmute and explain quickly. Please, don't leave me hanging. You there, Joshua? If not, I'll give you my answer. Okay.
Come on, Joshua, open up.
Yeah, open up, man. Hamza knows what's going on. Let me see if I can find what I'm going to show you guys here as well. I'm trying to accept permissions for microphone. All right, brother. You can do it, man. Whilst you're accepting that, I'm going to try to pull up a system that I use for client delivery that has saved my ass for so many people. Here it is. Beautiful. All right. No, I lie. Where is it? Client trackers. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. So whilst Joshua's, Joshua, if you've got, mate, if you don't need to unmute, you can just type it. All right. It's taking quite a while, so I'm going to answer your question as if you weren't unmuting, if that makes sense. Yeah, you can unmute, man. Go for it. Yeah, go for it. It's fine. Hello, mate. Sorry, I know I've put you on the spot here, but I just so I'm going to treat this as if you're a client of ours, right? So what I'm going to do is ask you some questions, and then we'll define the problem. So when you say the service delivery is a problem, what do you actually mean?
Right. So I'm committing the grave sin of preparing before I actually deliver, because I've been working full time for the last sort of month. But now that I'm free of my commitments at work, I'm currently at university. I'm trying to figure out what to offer. So with service delivery, I've got a couple of offers that I think I can give. Like I listed there's one. So for hotel adverts, I can offer, I'll put you top of the list through Google AdWords, stuff like that. So with Google hotel campaigns, this is in the hotel niche. You show up, you've got, so the client, right,
so what you're saying then, if I'm not mistaken, is because you've told me that you've got a problem with service delivery, but we don't know that that's true because you've never delivered service before.
Yeah.
You've got a problem figuring out what you should pick.
Yeah.
All right, well, what you should pick is what people want. So construct outreach campaigns and split test 3 different variables, explaining the 3 different offers, and see which one performs best.
Okay. So should I, well, then in doing that, so you say to track the data, but that, right, yeah, I'm just thinking of how I can do that. So if I'm setting, so I amass a pile of leads, I send out 3 different campaigns, and then I just see which responds best, or?
I would personally do it through cold calling.
Through cold calling, okay.
Yeah, because then you can trust the data, because it's not like deliverability or lead quality is going to get in the way.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Even then, just like call them up and be like, if you're afraid of doing it from a cold call, just call it up and be like, I'm conducting some research into hotel owners and their relationship with marketing. What sounds sexier to you, this or this? Like, what would? And I don't want to try and sell you something, Mr. Hotel Owner, but what would you rather buy? Like, bear in mind, there's no obligation to actually purchasing any of these things. I'm trying to gauge, 15, 20 people in the hotel space, what they want to buy, conducting some research. Can you just give me 30 seconds? That's how I do it, mate. And just pretend you're a college student. Just say,
okay, well, I am a university student, so I've got no real ethical apprehension about that, and I study economics, so I could definitely fit that in. But like, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, tell them you're doing your dissertation or your thesis on hotel owners and marketing because you love the hospitality space. Have they got a second?
Yeah.
Is it all right if you cite them in your paper? And then just find out like that. Don't try and guess, just ask.
Yeah.
Whenever it comes to something that's client facing or niche facing, never ever try and assume what people want. Just ask them what they want and they'll tell you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
Right. And then the other thing I was going to show everyone here is this sheet, which will save your ass for service delivery. So what you want to do when you acquire a client is, especially this is for Facebook ads, right? So you can adapt it. But if you're doing Facebook ads or any paid traffic, you should be logging data every single day. So log yesterday's data today. So you log how much you spent yesterday, how many impressions you made, how many clicks you got. And if it's lead gen, how many people started the form, how many leads you got, how many schedules you got. And then the client will log how many calls they actually conducted and how many sales they made. Because you've got to realize like service delivery is as a system, it's a collection of like half a dozen or a dozen subsystems. And so when someone's like, oh, Charlie, my service delivery isn't working, it's like, well, which part? Because it's easier to solve like a high CPM than it is to solve an entire massive service delivery problem. And sometimes I've done this with clients before where they tell me they've got this massive, huge issue, like in their business, like I can't do anything, I can't get clients results. And I'm like, well, what's the landing page conversion rate? And they're like, I don't know, like 0.1%. Everything else is perfect up until that point. So they just fix the landing page and the whole business is fixed. So if you guys don't know the numbers of your business, you don't know your business. The business is just numbers and people. You need to know your people, that's your team. You need to know your numbers, which is your systems. If you know your numbers, you know your systems, then you can scale. I have spreadsheets for quite literally everything. If I want to see how well a sales rep's performing, I'm 2 clicks away from it. If I want to see how much profit we made last month, I'm 2 clicks away from it. Any number that you ever need to call on you should always be just 1 or 2 clicks away. I actually lied, it's 3 clicks because I have to open Chrome. Vincent says a guide to split between cold emails and cold looms when reaching out, or does it matter? Also, let me send that spreadsheet to you guys actually, instead of trying to ask you guys to reverse engineer it for like 4 hours. A guide to split between cold emails and cold looms when reaching out, or does it matter? Just do cold looms. Is market research important? If so, what questions do you ask? Market research is probably the most important thing. It's like the most important thing you can do, but it should never stop. So the mistake people make with market research is they do it at the start and then they stop doing it. The better you understand your niche and the people that operate in it, the better you can tailor messages to them to resonate with them to get them to buy from you. And the best market research comes from doing sales calls. So like every sales call is an opportunity to understand your niche a little bit better. Because people in niches have affinity. So how one gym owner feels about one thing is probably how pretty much every gym owner feels about it, with rare exceptions. But if I'm looking to ask what questions they'd ask, it would be the questions I ask on sales calls. If I could wave a wand and fix one problem in your business, what would it be? Why would you want to fix that one specifically? What problem, what knock-on effect does that have in the business? Okay, and that effect, what knock-on effect does that then have? Why do you want to grow the business? What are your desires? What are your goals? What's your strategy? What do you want to do in 10 years? Why are you running the company? Do you love your work? Why don't you love your work? What specifically about it? Like any question that allows you to unroot a problem, basically, is what you should be doing with market research. Because the better you understand the problem and the nature of it, and the knock-on effects and second-order consequences of it, the better you are at producing messages and stimulus that if shown to that person with that problem. Like, if you want someone to believe you can solve the problem, all you have to do is demonstrate you truly understand it. Because I could go to an agency owner, like any of you guys, and get on a call with you and probably explain yourself to yourself better than you could to me about yourself. And if you can demonstrate to someone that you understand their problem on such a deep level and you understand them on a really deep level, then of course they're going to trust that you can help them. It's kind of like a therapist. Like, how do you know if a therapist is going to help you? Well, they understand you. They don't really offer advice or anything, but you believe they can help you because of how well they actually can resonate with you. Is it better to hire a VA to find you leads rather than hiring a lead gen person freelancer specifically? Depends entirely on the niche. If you're in a niche where like lead sources wouldn't be used as commonly, then lead sources are fine. But if you're in like a really high hot niche where it's always going to be used, then I would do a VA. Should I get a remote apprenticeship in digital marketing to gain experience? No. I would just do it like, instead of going to work for someone to gain experience in digital marketing, I would go on Skillshare and just buy a bunch of courses and then go around to local businesses in your area and just say, hey, can I do your marketing for free? You can create your own apprenticeship effectively. Like my apprenticeship paid me £3.50 an hour. If I went to businesses and said, hey, I'm a young kid, I spend all my time on social media, if you pay me £3.50 an hour, I'll make you a lot of money. Like they'd take you up on it, right? So you can create your own apprenticeship, but it also depends. The answer to that question, Luke, depends on who the apprenticeship is with. So like if someone said to me, like, should I get a remote apprenticeship in marketing to gain experience? By the way, the person I'm learning from is David Ogilvy, who's like the founder of copywriting. Then I'd be like, yes, take the apprenticeship, drop everything you're doing. But it depends on like where they're at. If it's just a one-man band, then I would not recommend it. If it's a massive company and you can learn from the director, I would do it. Do you think it's better to set an appointment in a cold call or try to get an email and ask them for an appointment in a follow-up call? I do it on the cold call. It's more efficient. Efficiency and directness and like simplicity are very important in appointment booking. What are the best human psychology, sales, and productivity books I could get? Now, the best psychology books are just entry-level college textbooks. And I'm not even joking. Just go and buy like, you know, undergraduate, first year textbooks on psychology. That's the best thing I ever did. Learned about operant conditioning, classical conditioning, cognitive biases, anchoring. There's so much. Like psychology is just the most important thing. Like I wouldn't be in a position I'm in now with regards to my client acquisition expertise if I didn't understand psychology. That's just the only thing that really matters with client acquisition. Because what is client acquisition? It's acquiring a client. What's a client? It's a human. What's a human? That's a difficult question to answer, but a human is just an aggregation of behaviors. What's an aggregation of behaviors? An aggregation of thoughts and natures. It's just human nature. So if you reverse engineer and if you bring client acquisition, appointment booking all the way down to first principles, you just find psychology. And then if you bring that all the way down, you just find pain avoidance. Freud found that out. So we can kind of draw that conclusion. Anyway, the best books on psychology, sales, and productivity. I would anything by Robert Greene is really good on psychology. Don't try and read sales books, read psychology books and apply them and you'll understand sales. In productivity, I don't think I've ever read a productivity book in my life. You don't learn productivity through a fucking book. You read it through being productive. Don't read it through being productive. You learn it through being productive. It's like, oh, what book should I read to improve my focus? No. Well, technically, yes, you can read books and apply the knowledge you learn to improve certain things. But like with productivity, just do the work. Like productivity measures your output, right? As a human, which is like how much you can do and how much energy you have and how much you can apply it to produce things. And what's the opposite of output? It's input, right? So if your productivity is your output as a human, if your body and mind are doing things to produce things, the opposite of that is input. What's an input? Well, it's anything that contributes towards your biological state. Food, sleep, sex, hydration, things like that. Like the good biology is a precursor to great psychology. So if you're expecting your body and mind to be productive and you're eating like massive sandwiches and sleeping for 4 hours a night, you're not going to be productive. It's kind of impossible. You're just giving your body this impossible task. And I'm just going to shut my curtain. If I leave my curtains open, it starts to look like I've got a skin disease. So I hope you guys can see me all right. Is there any way, hang on, that light's pissing me off. All right, that's more like it. Is there any way to find out the owner profile from Ecom brand pages on Facebook or Instagram? I don't think so, and I wouldn't know, to be honest, mate. No, I honestly don't know. But if you could find the owner's profile, that would be sick. The best way to find owners' profiles on Facebook is to go to Facebook groups and then to go through their friends list because owners are usually friends with owners, right? You can also get an auto dialer so it auto calls the next person. Yeah, that's a good suggestion in reference to the cold calling thing, like how do you make the next call? Your thoughts on this statement? If you're worried about paying taxes, you're not making enough money. No, I think that's bullshit. Because rich people worry about taxes all the time. I can tell you because I know a lot of them, and a lot of the time they spend, because they realize like when you start figuring out how to make money and it's not a problem, like acquiring capital and cash flow isn't an issue for you anymore. It's more about like how much can you keep. So I'm like most of my wealthy friends, people who are like multimillionaires, 9-figure business owners, they spend a lot of time worrying about paying taxes. Whoever said that probably doesn't have to worry about taxes because they aren't making any money. I fucking hate tax. You got to pay it. I watched the 75 books video you watched a while back. About to start reading Barbarians to Bureaucrats. What's maybe one to two more books you think are an absolute read for entrepreneurship, psychology, business, sales, marketing? By the way, your name is sick. Thank you, Charlie. Likewise. Oh, do you know what? Actually, hang on. So, a couple of things that I actually bought recently from Amazon, which obviously aren't going to be on this list because I made the list a while ago. I was recommended by someone who's doing 8 figures, a friend of mine, in the SaaS space. And he recommended I read these 3 books, which were quite expensive. I think they were like $100 in total or something, or maybe like $70. They're called the Great Mental Models, these big red hardbacks. And basically what they are is it's a collection of like principles and mental models that you can use in business. So I'm going to read them. I won't recommend them yet because, well, I haven't read them, but they've been recommended to me by a very smart person. So you got Mental Models Volume 1, which is general thinking concepts. 2 is Mental Models for Applied Sciences. And then the 3rd one is Systems and Mathematics, which is what I'm most excited for. But in case you guys are wondering what I'm reading, that's what I'm reading. And Charlie, I mean, I'd recommend you read those, I suppose. Can't hurt. All right. What would you say are problems that ecom brands are facing right now if you're pitching UGC? Probably finding good UGC or getting UGC and it not working, or not even knowing it exists. How do you protect yourself from clients scamming you? Don't put your, do you know, this is the thing about being scammed, right? Is like, it's not that I don't have empathy for people that get scammed, but if someone scams you, they've taken advantage of something like a weakness that you've got to a degree. Like if a client scams you, you kind of could have and should have prevented it, if that makes sense. So how do I protect myself from clients scamming me? You just have very firm, simple contract, legally binding agreements with clients, and then you just don't put yourself in a position where you can be scammed. And then what to do with low ticket leads? Just get rid of them when you find out they can't pay, or close them for a lower ticket, or refer them to someone else. Yeah, I just get rid of them. If someone can't afford what we do, then we don't try and sell them something like lower. You don't want to build a business around people that can't afford a high, well, you can build a business around people that can't afford high ticket services, but like I'm not going to start building products and infrastructures and systems for clients that can't afford the main product that we build. What do I do if prospect wants a service that I don't offer? And you just don't work with them. Depends on your situation. Like if you really need the money and you can deliver the service, you just don't offer it, then you can take it up. Tony says, can you explain contracts a bit? Contracts are very straightforward. Let me see if I can find a resource on this. Hang on. So I actually think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I can give you an example here. So one of the, like a big essential to contract guidelines is to have expectations clearly set and labeled for when clients come on board. So like if we're offering a guarantee, for example, we'll make sure clients are aware of all of these things. So like, you know, if we're putting ourselves in a position where we're going to be offering money back, we need to make sure that clients do the work. So it's kind of like with Imperium, for example, that we have a money back guarantee with every client that comes on board. If you don't make your money back, we give it back, right? But we know that if people do what we tell them, then they'd never be in a position to get their money back. So it's very important that, like, if you know your system works, then all you have to do is just make it clear to clients they have to do what you say to make the system work. I mean, if they do it, it'll work, right? So the only time we get refund requests is when people don't do the work. It's like, can I get my money back? Or can I see your loom metrics? Oh, I forgot to log my metrics. It's like, did we tell you to do it? Yeah. Did you do it? No. So yeah. Other than that, like with contracts, just keep them as simple as possible. You don't need to have this fancy legal speech or anything, just like really simple words, just explaining like the deliverables. You can also just go to like online contract template providers and they're usually good enough. But yeah, Tony, that's as far as my contract knowledge goes, I'm afraid. You don't need to hire, well, you can hire a lawyer. But I've written all my own contracts and just made them extremely simple, like excruciatingly simple. They've always been fine. In your experience, is database reactivation something that you can charge monthly or one and done type deal? Usually it's one and done, but it depends on the size of their list. So that's that. Can you describe a person who became the person to make 10K a month? Yeah, so what does it look like to be someone that makes 10 grand a month? All right. Do you know what? I can actually show you this because I have a document that I produced ages ago based on who I wanted to become to make 10 grand a month. So I can show you exactly who I created for myself and how that manifested, because it did actually manifest. Let me see if I can find this. Hang on. No, I don't think I'm going to be able to find it. Sorry, I've completely teased you guys there. Hang on. Give me a second. Oh, this would be going way back. Let's see if I can find this. Hang on. No, that's for Imperium. That doesn't count. So I don't think this is the right one. No, I can't find it. I'm sorry, mate. Sorry, all of that for nothing, basically. Describe the person who could make 10 grand a month. Persuasive is probably the number one. Someone who can actually persuade people to do things that they want them to do. Hardworking is number two. Steady emotions and unwavered by problems. So like the way that it's about the way you approach problems. If a problem arises, do you get all emotional about it, or do you just start working immediately on a solution? Like someone that makes 10 grand a month, if they're, to be fair, like 10 grand a month isn't too tricky. I'd say persuasive is probably the main thing. Persuasive, and then like sickeningly determined to actually do what they say they can do. That's it, really. Like it's actually delivering on what you say you can deliver on. It's being like trying as hard as you possibly can to deliver an insane service. If you focus on building yourself around persuasion and talent specifically to talent siloed specifically to what you're doing, if you have talent and persuasion, you can make 6 figures. That's because talent is knowing how to do it, and persuasion is telling people you can do it in a way that gets them to believe you. All client acquisition is getting someone to believe that you can do what you say you can do, and you're telling the truth. And it's impossible to be persuasive if you don't have talent. Or it is possible, but it's not ethical, right? So someone that makes 10 grand a month is probably very persuasive and very talented. Talent is specific, like I said, to the thing they're delivering on, and persuasion is specific to telling people how good they are at that thing. And usually if you're talented, persuasion will come. So just focus on the talent, basically. Someone that can actually deliver results, I would say, Marsh. Like client acquisition is kind of just service delivery in disguise. Because if you are talented and you know you're really good, then you don't need to focus on persuasion, because you'll be talking to people and you'll know you're talented and good, so you'll naturally be persuasive. So yeah, talented. I'm unwaveringly determined to become the best they possibly can be at the service they're offering. It's like I ask people like how much time do you spend working on your service delivery? It's like, I don't really work on it. It's like, fuck man, you need to really work on that. Like study other disciplines, figure out like when you like the way you want almost to do this is every single piece of information or advice you receive should be funneled through the question of how does this apply to insert service here. So when I read these 3 books on mental models, every single piece of information I read will unconsciously be processed through my brain as how does this apply to client acquisition? Because client acquisition for high ticket info businesses and service-based businesses is my talent and it's my service and it's the only thing that I care about. So everything that I read and channel through is like, how can I apply that to make my service better? If you do that consistently for a year, you'll make 10 grand a month in no time. People that make money deserve to make money. That's kind of the way it works. What's the difference in them between a glorified freelancer and a beginner? That's what I just mentioned. And also, if you think you're talented, you're not. That's another thing as well. It's a non-binary thing. If you think you're good at what you do, you've lost. Because as soon as you think you're good, then you stop trying. And it's by trying that you are good. Charlie, you mentioned stuff that websites don't matter. You should focus on outreach. But I had an objection from a client and they looked at my website. They don't want to move forward with my services. I have a basic Squarespace website, but thinking of hiring a web designer to make it more professional. What are your thoughts? Just remove the website. Just get rid of the website. The client looked at your website and said, oh, I don't want to move forward because of the website. Don't try and improve it, just remove it. Maybe build a funnel and then make it really simple. But like the only way that, like we've only just built a website for Imperium and we've just passed 300 clients. We made like, what is that in lifetime value? Like $2 million, $3 million before building a website. It's just so unnecessary. And like, you want to make it so that the only way that anyone can get information about your services is through you on a call. So just delete the website. And you might be like, oh, but I spent ages on it. Even more of a reason to delete it. Do you think I should hire someone to find leads, or should I do it myself? Do it yourself until you've got too many calls and clients. Like the way you want, here's the model that I use to explain outsourcing when you're starting. You should do everything yourself when you're starting your business, including lead sourcing all the way through to sales calls and service delivery. Once you start having less time because of sales calls and service delivery, then you start outsourcing the bottom rung. So think of it like this, right? At the bottom of your business, you've got lead sourcing. And then beyond that, you've got maybe recording videos to send to clients on email. Then you've got sending the email and following up on the email. Then you've got booking the call. Then you've got doing the call. Then you've got delivering the service. So you want to do all of that yourself. And then once you get to the top and start booking calls and signing clients, then you want to take away the thing at the bottom. So the first thing you outsource is lead sourcing. And then when you outsource that, you get more clients. Then you outsource sending. And then when you do that, you outsource follow-ups. So like only outsource it when you haven't got the time to do it. And the only thing that you should class as important doing is sales calls and service delivery. So when you've got so much work on with service delivery because of signing clients, and you can't do lead sourcing because of that, then you hire someone. How can you gauge whether a niche is worth your time? How many ads should you expect to see in the Facebook ads library for a decent size / potentially profitable niche? For reference, I've decided on sculpt micropigmentation for the time being. I would never look at how many Facebook ads are in an ads library. I would just try and do like 20 sales calls with people in that niche and see if they buy from me. Again, you shouldn't make assumptions or try to guess in business. Just test it. It's like, is sculpt micropigmentation a good niche? I don't know, let's make 1,000 cold calls and find out. You know? Because how does anyone supposed to know if it's a good niche or not? Oh, they've only got 10 Facebook ads running. Well, it could be the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world. You never want to guess in business, you want to test. Simon says, hey Charlie, hope you're doing well. I feel like sales is the most important part of client acquisition, but it's also the least talked about on your channel. Could you expand on your sales process, persuasion skills, stages of sales meetings? Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't make sales videos as often because they're not as popular, but I can make some. Sales process is very, very simple. It's really just split into 4 segments. Segment 1 is asking questions. Segment 2 is pitching. Segment 3 is answering their questions. And segment 4 is objection handling and closing. So let me show you, I'll just sort of map this out really quickly. So, you know, what have we got here? We've got 4 segments, right? That's 3 segments, I'm an idiot. Right, so you've got Q&A on your end, right? In brackets, you're asking them questions. And then you've got a pitch. And then you've got Q&A on their end, right? And then you've got objections and closing, right? How easy this part is depends on how well you do these 3 things. So if you want objection handling to be easier, right, you should focus on asking better questions, having a better pitch, and being better with your answers. Objections aren't objections in the sense that they are standalone statements. Objections have strength. So an objection can either be strong or weak. Every sales call has objections, with a few exceptions. So everyone will always say, I want to think about it. But if you do these 3 things right, in a really good way, then someone saying, I want to think about it will be weaker than someone saying, I want to think about it if you do these things wrong. So people always focus like, Charlie, what's the best objection handling technique? What's the best way of closing people? It's like, if you want this part to be easy, you just need to do these 3 things properly. Because the better you do these 3 things, the softer the objections are and the easier the close is. So with the question and answer, we're really looking to define a problem, right? Demonstrate that we understand the prospect and by listening to them. And then really we're just digging up pain and a future they want. So the objective with the questioning is define the problem, demonstrate you understand them by listening to them and asking relevant questions and resonating with them. Figure out why this problem is creating pain, and if this problem was solved, what would their future look like? If you do that, it should take you about 15 to 20 minutes. If you don't do this properly, then when they object, it'll be way harder. Because if someone who's objecting, like, I want to think about it, like if they say that, but like if you haven't demonstrated you understand them or built pain or built a future, and you've only just built a tiny bit of a problem, then of course their objection is going to be really strong, right? So it's the same thing, then you pitch them, right? So the pitch is just conviction. It doesn't matter what you say in your pitch, it matters how you say it. Do you genuinely believe you can change their life? And do you genuinely believe you're talented enough to deliver on your promise? If so, you can just tell them that and they'll believe you. The more conviction you have, the softer the objection will be and the easier the close will be. The less conviction you have and the more you ramble as well, the worse it is. So the key to the key to pitching is conviction and conciseness. Say it in as little words as possible. You don't want to talk about anything except from the end goal at a high level. So when you're pitching someone, you don't tell them about your fucking copywriting philosophies. You focus on the problem, the future, the pain, the goal, and then you talk at a general level as to exactly how you help them overcome that problem. And then what you do is you leave it so vague that they start to ask questions, right? So when I'm pitching someone, I'm not going into anything but very high level information. And then I say to them, I understand that might be quite vague, but I don't want to talk to your face for like 20 minutes about how great I am. I would rather you ask me questions you need to ask me to fully understand what I do. So when your pitch is nice and vague, what starts to happen is they ask questions relevant to what they need to understand. So with a question and answer phase, it's kind of like the prospect is building a puzzle, right? So if we just, if we visualize a puzzle here, right? So the way it works is the prospect will have like pieces of information they need to understand to see the puzzle complete and then make a decision to purchase. If you try and close them before they've put the puzzle together in their mind, in the way they need to put it together, then when they object to you, it will be extremely strong. So this is why you have a vague pitch and let them ask questions, because then what starts to happen is they will ask questions about your thing that helps them understand the thing for them, for how it works for them specifically. So then when it comes to the objections and the closing, they understand only what they need to understand. Because let's say you go into like, oh, so here's how we write copy, or here's how we make creative, or something like that. Like, it just gives them information that they don't care about, don't understand, and have no affinity to. Some people might want to understand it, but if they want to understand it and it's important to them making a decision, they'll ask. So basically, the key to pitching and explaining what you do is don't give them information they don't need to know. And how do we know what they need to know? Well, we do it by letting them ask questions about how it works. So your pitch should never be longer than like 2 to 3 minutes. And I'm not even joking, like the pitch should just be so fucking vague that they have to ask questions. And then after like 10 minutes of questions and answers, they'll be like, all right, well, what's the price? And then when they ask the price, you know they've got the puzzle in place. So when someone asks about the price, the puzzle is complete. And then you can move on to the objections and the closing. And the key to answering questions is to be concise. And always, 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 always gratify the question and then loop back to the goal. So for example, let's say that someone asked me, so Charlie, how does the cold loom thing work? Right? I'd give them a nice, concise answer specifically to loom, maybe show them how it works. I'd start by saying, that's a great question. I'm so glad you've asked that because I could talk about loom for hours. I'm not going to do it for hours. I'll do it for a minute. Otherwise, you'll probably go insane. I explain the loom thing and I say, so you can see here, like that's how the loom thing works. And it gives me so much confidence you're going to get 10 grand a month. So what you're doing here is every question acts as a vehicle for you to instill more conviction into the prospect. So every answer you provide should have conviction laced into it. And everything you're doing in the sales call should always lay a conviction. And then the objection thing and the closing thing, like if you get all this right, then they'll be like, oh, I want to think about it. You'll be like, of course you want to think about it. I totally understand. That's absolutely fine. However, there's one thing, and that's that I can genuinely solve this problem for you. And we can get going immediately, and I can give you leads as little as tomorrow. Why would we want to wait on that? And if you've done everything else right, the objection falls apart and they'll buy. So yeah, that's a pretty lengthy answer to a very simple question. But those are the 4 stages of a sales call. And, you know, if you get them right, you'll just close deals. But instead, like people hop on sales calls like, I just want to have a conversation with the prospect. Like, you're a fucking idiot. So don't have a conversation, have an agenda. Do you think running ads for my agency for Facebook on Facebook is worth it? You should only ever run ads on Facebook to acquire clients if you can spend 3 grand a month and lose it and not get emotional about it. That's kind of like the rite of passage for running ads for your agency. And also you should only ever run ads if you've already proven your business works on a small scale. Because ads, they pour fire. Like ads basically blow up your existing business. So if your existing business is shit and you can't acquire clients with your existing business model and service and offer and everything, if you put ads on it, you're just going to have way more shit. But if on a small scale, your business is doing well and you apply ads to it, then your business will grow in accordance to how well it's doing right now. Ads don't fix a business. They just expose more of what the business currently is. If that makes sense. Hey, Rach, how's it going? Pleasure to be here. What are the books that helped you the most with the sales or negotiations part? I mean, Influenced by Robert Cialdini is a bloody good one. Like what you want to do is go and read Influenced by Robert Cialdini. And then go and find like in that book, he references his sources at the end. Then go and read the sources. And then from those sources, go and read the sources of those. And then you can just take one book that works really well. Also, How to Win Friends and Influence People is quite good. But like, go and find out who Robert Cialdini learned from. And go and learn from him, and then find who he learned from or she learned from, and go from there. What's your long-term vision? What do you want to do in the future in terms of business? Do you want to ever get into software? Like right now, the mission and the vision for the company is to make client acquisition easy. But long-term, I want to be a billionaire. You can't do that with a coaching business. I mean, you can if you're Tony Robbins, but I don't even think he's a billionaire yet. So for now, we're just focused on what's in front of us, which is make client acquisition easy. I want to have done that by the time I'm 30, but it'll probably be before then. And then, yeah, we'll probably do some sort of software play or property play. Well, basically, I'll weigh up and evaluate, like, what's the best vehicle for billionaire production, and we'll probably go with that one. But it won't just be about that. It'll be more about like what sort of impact we can have as well, because once you get past a certain point, money doesn't make you any less miserable. When you're sending cold Instagram and Facebook DMs and you're landing in the requests, I don't see a question tagged onto that, Sam. Sorry, mate. At what point in revenue of your agency would you get into SaaS? I would never really get into SaaS, so I don't really know. One thing I can tell you is that you don't really want to start a SaaS business if you haven't got a completely automated company. Like I've never started a SaaS before, but I know people who have, and like, it ain't easy. So yeah, I don't really know what point I'd get into SaaS because I've never done it before, and I don't know if I have any intention to do it, but I'd say once you've got like, I don't know, like 3 or 5 million in cash to play with, because then you're actually a contender for growth. Could you recommend some niches that are not oversaturated in the SMMA space? I'm stuck. I've been learning SMMA for 6 months and can't seem to pick a niche. Doesn't really matter what I recommend, mate, because whatever I recommend, you're still going to struggle to pick. And also, I never ever recommend specific niches to certain people because it has to be your decision, not mine. Best advice, mate, get all the niches, put them on A4 paper, shut your eyes, and then throw a dart at them and just pick the one that the dart lands on. But as long as I wouldn't go with lawyers, dentists, or e-commerce. Yeah, those are the ones that I'd avoid. It's never about the niche, it's about the person. Like, that's one thing that I've really learned. Because like, we've got people in our program who go from 0 to 40 grand or 0 to 20 grand a month in like 3 or 4 months in one niche. And then there's other people in that niche and it takes them like a whole year to get to 10K a month. The niche is never the variable that, like, it doesn't really matter what niche you're in. It matters who you are and how good you are at what you do. How long should you test a script for cold calling? I talk to like 50 decision makers before making any assumptions. I think at present, the meetings I'm doing with clients are actually making them not buy my service. I've done 5 meetings. I'm awful at the meeting, very nervous, even though my English is not the best. But maybe it's because I'm nervous I cannot structure my sentences properly. I think they can see I'm unprofessional. Is it better if I just send them a very good presentation of my explanation of my service? No, I wouldn't do that, mate. Like, don't hide behind email and presentation. If you're afraid of sales calls, just do sales calls until you're not afraid of them. It's natural to be fucking terrified for your first like 40 sales calls, right? You know, the best advice I can give you is just do them until you feel comfortable with them and practice them in your head. This is something, guys, if you're not doing enough sales calls at the moment, you're not getting enough sales practice. So just game out sales scenarios in your head. Like, think through, like, what questions am I going to ask? What am I going to pitch? What questions are they probably going to ask? How am I going to answer them? Like, how am I going to present the price? What are they going to object to? How am I going to try and overcome them? You can just play, you can play out, like, if you're not doing many calls and you need sales experience to get comfortable with sales, just shut your eyes and, like, for 60 minutes a day, just imagine a call a day. And then over the course of 3 months, you've done like 60 sales calls, just not real ones. And then when you hop into a sales call, you'll feel way more prepared and calm because even though it's not the real experience, there's a part of you that has experienced what you're going to face. It's what I did. I used to hate sales calls. And I was like, fuck, well, I've got to do them. Like, I'm not going to start, you know, you never ever want to pick or choose tasks based on what you want to do. You need to pick and choose tasks based on what's best for your goal and your business. So like, I was like, I got to do sales calls. All right, I'm just going to do like 20 in my head, you know, whilst trying to book sales calls. And then they got around to it and I was like, oh, okay. Turns out I can actually do them. What's your opinion on agency owners offering mentorship to go from 0 to 10K a month or 90 days, or we work with you until you succeed? It's fucking bullshit, mate. The whole like, we'll work for free until it works is just such bollocks. If someone promised me something and I paid them and they didn't deliver it, I wouldn't want them to keep working for me for free, because it's not about the money, it's about the time. It's like, oh, I'll get you. Also, anyone that says they can get you to 10K a month in 90 days, it's just like, it's just bollocks, because they don't know who you are. They don't know what limiting beliefs you have. They don't know what psychological things you have to process to get good at business. They don't know what your current level of skill is. They don't know how talented you are. They don't know how hardworking you're. I just don't agree with like people that, I mean, maybe 0 to 10K a month in 12 months. Yeah, fair enough. But when they're like, oh, do it in 90 days, like run. And then like, oh, I'll work with you for free until you get to 90K a month. It's like, you really think that after 90 days, if you haven't made it, they're going to be like messaging you every day to make sure it works? No, they set the premises of that condition. It's like, oh, I'll work for you for free until you get the result you want. It's like, I don't want anyone working for me that isn't getting results, whether I'm paying them or not. Right? Any tips for killing your current self? I'm going to take that in the non-literal form. When you say killing your current self, I'm assuming you mean removing the current person you are that's stopping you from getting what you want, right? And overcoming addictions, porn, social media. Well, the best thing to do is attack it at the root. So if you want to change your behavior, don't try and change the behavior, try and change the identity, because your behaviors are downstream of who you believe you are. So people are like, I want to quit smoking. It's like, no. Don't try and quit smoking. Try to stop being a smoker. Because if you think you're a smoker trying to quit smoking, you'll smoke. Right? Or if you think it's like, I'm going to try and quit porn. It's like, well, no, just try and stop being someone who watches porn. Right? And just tell yourself every day, like, I'm not a smoker. I don't watch porn. And then like what starts to happen is if you say that to yourself and you visualize yourself restraining from that, and you experience the emotion of determination and power that comes with resisting the impulse in that moment of affirmation, you start to rekindle your relationship with yourself in the opposite direction. So imagine like, if you want to quit an addictive behavior like smoking, the primary trigger, they're literally called triggers. The primary thing that triggers an addiction is a trigger where it's seeing a packet of cigarettes, or it's smelling the smoke, or it's seeing the lighter. Just shut your eyes and take yourself to a position where you're in that situation in color and detail, and the stimulus, the trigger is there, and just imagine yourself resisting, and then feel the power and resistance and the determination that comes as a result of that resistance in your imagination. And then when the thing actually happens in real life, you've got this practice. It's just like practicing sales calls in your head. So you're prepared for the real life scenario for when it actually happens. I've got a video coming out, guys. Let me check my YouTube schedule on how to, let me find it. So on Monday, I've got a video coming out called Trial by Fire, which is a mindset video. I think it's almost 3 hours long, about how to get rid of your current self and how to replace it. So that'll answer that question, Simon, in more detail than I can now. Okay, so I've got Noah's question here. I'm going to keep going, guys, because I feel like I've got lots of energy, but I also do need to take a quick break to run to the bathroom. So I'm going to pause the recording, and I'll be back in 2 seconds. Keep popping your questions in, guys.
Okay, yeah.
So
there we go.
Just to interrupt
The
that.
stage is yours, Charlie.
What's that, John? Yeah?
The stage is yours.
Thank you, man. Dylan, if you want to talk to a client of ours, Mr. Luca Good has just joined the fold.
Yeah. No, I was just, while you were taking a piss or whatever, I told him I have a call with, I think, Jack Roberts in half an hour.
Oh, you're in for a real treat if it's Jack.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. He's very charismatic.
Yeah.
I think he adopts a lot of like the sales and the kind of the tactics that you talk about.
Yeah, I mean,
on
listening
your
to
channel.
Jack is just like listening to me.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna pull the trigger and get it, because I was telling him earlier that like I've been running my agency for about 3 years now, and I'm kind of like trying to get out of the phase of being like a glorified freelancer, like from what you're saying. So I think there's a lot of really good things that I could implement from what you have in the program.
What's the problem?
I just don't have like a really, like not enough structure. Like, for example, like I saw Jack, he provided me a video like of I guess one of your Loom strategy videos. It was like 1 hour and 47 minutes. And then last night, I just didn't even know like so many things about just Gmail. Like I didn't even utilize fully like the labeling system and all that. I'm like, that's just like right there. Like I would pay a lot of money just for that. I know that's just some shit you could just find online, but
dude, people are gonna think you're a paid actor. No, when you
I
go on those
God.
like webinars and there's like the miraculous client that seems to have done so well that starts telling everyone how good it is. Yeah, do it, mate.
I guess, yeah, man. I mean, I don't give a shit. I'll screen share my screen and show you guys that I have a meeting in half an hour with Jack.
I think they believe you, mate. It's fine.
But no, I was looking at your video. I was looking at your channel like an hour ago, and I wanted to see some videos on some cold call,
Yeah.
specifically like follow-up strategies. And I just realized that you have you're hosting something right now. So I just wanted to dive in.
Well, if you want to see, I mean, this was not supposed to be a sales thing, but this might be useful for everyone like in the future. And I'm going to cap this at literally a 30-second explanation, right? But like with cold calling specifically, like it's not, a lot of courses for cold calling are very vague and they give you like one script and 10-minute videos and that's it. But so we've got this module called Conquering Cold Calling, right? Which is a 10-part video series. And like,
Yeah.
when it comes to like the pitching, for example, the video is like an hour and 50 minutes long. But then if you look at our pitching, we actually game out the entire conversation that you could have with a decision maker. Instead of just giving like one liner, it's like it's just basically it's deep. So yeah, anyways, I look forward to seeing you in there, mate. It sounds promising. I'm gonna get
Appreciate that.
questions if that's all right.
Yeah. Can I ask one? Is it fine if I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
Or no?
Depends what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. I just
Yeah.
want to know like your allocation of, I guess, resources because for me, like I'm trying to figure out when I should be doing Loom. Like I've had a lot of success recently by doing the cold Loom strategy, thanks to you for showing that to me. But also I'm trying to figure out when should I allocate my energy from doing cold calls versus Looms. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I want to create like a structure.
Whichever one works better.
Okay. And I would assume like you would cold call and Loom like the same prospects.
Yeah, I'd call them all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just got to figure out, like, I'm very type A. I got to like write like
Yeah,
some
you'll
sort
have
of
all the
structure.
SOPs, all of the SOPs specific to Loom are laid out, and the cold calling SOPs are laid out there, so you can just step by step it and integrate it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, thanks for that. I'll let you get back to it.
Tell Jack I said hi.
I will. Yeah.
Tell him I
I'll
love
see
his
him in
hair.
about 20 minutes.
He's got glorious hair, mate. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice one.